Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? There's always one more thing to do. There's always one more conversation to have, one more action to take, one more conversation to be involved in. And I've said this before, I don't think it ends. I don't think the trauma healing journey ends. That's why I have coaches and why I have a therapist and why I read the books and why I go to the conferences and why I still do all these things all these years later, investing all of my effort, time, money, energy, and self into it, not only so I can be a better servant leader, which is what I certainly consider myself to be, but also so that I can look in the mirror and be okay with the reflection on the other side. Knowing that I go all in. And again, I make mistakes. I fuck up all the time. It's the nature of being a human being. It's the nature of life. But you have to understand one thing unequivocally, the only way you move through and create the life that you want to have is what I always say. Change only happens when you make change happen. Thus, you must create action. And the hardest actions involve the most stringent amount of commitment because it's going to take time. I was on a stage Friday night, probably arguably the biggest stage I've ever spoken on. And that stage was full of these amazing and beautiful speakers who I got to sit back in the green room with and witness to be honest, witness realizing their truth. The whole idea, this concept about what you think becomes what you speak becomes your action becomes your reality. I watched it play out 10 times that night. Now I was one of the 10, and in the moment, like, I'm kind of in the matrix, to be honest with you, because I'm so zeroed in, and I won second place. And as I don't think there was any loser that night. And I'm super competitive. Everyone who knows me knows I'm fucking competitive. Like, you don't want to play me at Monopoly. Like, it's going to be awful for everybody involved, mainly the people that I'm playing against, because I'm that committed to winning. And being on that stage and sharing that moment, this beautiful moment, you, I, I recognized, like, wow, this is what life is capable of being. Because you may be knowing me for the first time in this episode, or you may have known me for 3 years, but you didn't know me when I was in the struggle. You didn't know me in the midst of going and being in rooms of where 2 people would show up to my workshop, where 6 people would show up, where nobody would show up, right? And then it kind of grows and grows and grows and grows and grows, because that's what happens when you stay committed. But I'm winning second place on Friday night at this speak off was an investment of a decade of my life. And it's not about the winning or losing. Again, I don't think in this scenario, and that hits home really hard for me, because I gathered and garnered this incredible community in the course of this weekend. But it was more so about knowing knowing in my heart that I was showing up as Michael, authentically, unequivocally, unquestionably, and undeniably. Because if you're not willing to be that person for yourself, you can't be that person for other people. And I said this before, I don't want to be the spokesperson for child abuse, but I do believe that it is my moral obligation. And the only way to step into my full authenticity is to honor that. And through honoring that, I self actualize and become this person that I know I'm capable of being. And that's despite fear. I had an amazing conversation about fear with multiple people this weekend. And fear is this thing that's always going to be in your fucking way until you take an action. You're scared, terrified of the other side. That's because you don't know what's going to happen. But I can tell you this, if you have community, connection, and commitment, fear is only a 4-letter word. And we add meaning to everything that happens in our lives. And I had an amazing conversation with someone who reminded me of that. Look, I think at the end of the day, what you have to understand about the journey that you're on is you're only alone if you choose to be. That doesn't mean anyone's going to hand you the roadmap. There are always going to be tools. There's always going to be something there for you to take and carry with you. That's why I created healtraumacoach.com, because I want to be able to be there and support you and give you community, connection, and commitment. And I'm willing to do that from my side, but you have to be willing to do it from your side. And that's the difference between success and failure, not only in life, but in the healing journey. You have to make up your mind. What are you willing to do to get unstuck? What are you willing to do to be the hero of your own story? What are you willing to do to think unbroken? And I remind myself of these questions daily, daily, because that's the only way I can show up in the world.